I was born in Levenshulme. I was born in Rusholme, 1934, so when war broke out, I wasn't quite 5.
Yeah, right.
And my brother would have been 6 months old.
So, Charmaine, what are your earliest memories?
My earliest memories were the first house I lived in where I was born, in Levenshulme. And then, of course, the bombing started during the war. And we had a brick shelter built with double bunks in it. So my brother and I were in the top bunk. And I know my brother used to break all his feeding bottles against the wall. I remember having a Christmas there and waking up one morning and there were 2 dolls stood leaning against the wall of the house. And it was pretty horrific. It was constant bombing, and that they flattened it around Manchester and Ardwick Green.
What would be a sort of daily, what would you eat during sort of one average day then at that time?
We used to have, we used to have stewed rabbit. You could get rabbits. And so we'd have sort of rabbits and that. It was very nice actually. Oh, and I can remember too, we used to get sheep's heads. And we used to fight over the cheeks and the tongue. When we went to school, I can remember going in the headmaster's study and we all had to stand and they measured our feet to see the length of our feet. And if you got long feet, you got extra coupons. And I did my best to make my feet longer, but it didn't work. And then the Americans sent over powdered chocolate. So we took containers and took home some black cocoa, powdered chocolate, milk chocolate. Those were the sort of things that we had. But I can remember walking up to school, and there was like a little community centre close by, and we were all taken in and shown a bath. And there was a line round it, and you were allowed no more than 4 inches of water to bathe in. So it was pretty frugal, it really was.
So could you tell me why Ardwick was bombed so heavily?
It was bombed because there were lots of factories there was lots of industry, and I think the Germans wanted to flatten all the factories and everything that produced clothing or food or ammunition or anything like that which help us to sustain ourselves during the war. Then we just sort of have to give in, to capitulate, because there'd be nothing left to eat or wear or anything like that. It was just and demoralising too.
Yeah. And how did it feel to be in the midst of that bombing for such a long time? How long was it?
Well, I was there for 2 years, and I suppose in a way I got used to it. The sirens, I mean, you'd hear the sirens go, and it was a horrific sound, and even now it turns your stomach to hear that wailing noise that went up and down and up and down, and you sort of run for the shelters and stay there and hope that these shelters kept you safe. And then the all clear would go, which meant that the bombing had ceased, and then you could go back into your houses. But very often we slept in those Anderson brick shelters, and then we'd go out, as I say, the following morning on our little bikes and collect the shrapnel from all the bombs that had fallen and that had landed in our area. We played with it, you know, as children really, not the same fear as adults. You're still frightened, but not in the same way the adults are, I don't think.
No.
I was frightened of going out into the shops. I thought one day I saw somebody that looked like Hitler, and I remember running home to my mum. It wasn't Hitler. I was frightened.
So you had an idea of who Hitler was, and was that talked about?
Oh yes, it was horrible, yes. And they were all baddies, the Germans, and we were terrified of those, yes.
And were you scared that, of an invasion?
Yes, oh yeah.
That was a real fear?
Yeah, if the Germans came over, if they got over the channel, it would be horrific. But one particular night, we were in bed and my father came running upstairs and grabbed hold of me. My mother grabbed my brother. And as we were going downstairs, I looked out of the box room window and I could see all these flames. And I said, "What's that?" And my father said, "Oh, it's just a plane in trouble." Anyway, we went downstairs and my father went out to get some coal, and then there's this, and I sat in a little red rocking chair, this enormous bang explosion, and I was lifted out of my chair, and it was a bomb that had fallen on Dialstone Lane in near Stockport. It flattened a couple of houses, It blew out all the windows of the houses round it and the church, the Methodist church opposite to it. You hear the noise of them going over and then it goes quiet. And then all of a sudden it falls and explodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are good memories and bad memories, but we came through it, and yeah, that was good.
When was the first time you took a flight?
I suppose I'd be about 40. I was terrified, and in the finish had to make myself go, thinking, well, if I didn't go, I would never get there.
Yeah.
But even so, you know, sort of taking off and the landing, sort of terrifying.
Yeah.
But yes, the memory of the planes going over and the crashes and things like that. Because there was a terrible plane crash. This was just after the war, and it landed on some flats in Stockport. Right. And there were some people who lived at the post office in Cheadle, who were on that plane, who were killed. I did get on a plane, yes, and I went, and I've been several times since then. I mean, I can remember coming back from, I'd been to Israel, I've been several times, I love it there, and I was coming back, and we just got over onto the Mediterranean, and the pilot said, we're going to have to turn back. Well, I had a rabbi one side of me, and I had a Catholic priest the other. The Catholic priest was crossing himself, the rabbi was doing this, and I just thought, well, Lord, if you want me, I'll see you today.
You conquered the fear.
I conquered the fear, yes. Well, I knew the Lord would keep me safe.